Hi, and welcome to the Fierce Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Brigette Gildemaster. This is a podcast for those who are ready to leave behind survival mode after abuse, where we talk about what it looks like to embody who you are as an individual, learn to love yourself, and bring to light healing after surviving abuse from relationships and religion. Pop your earbuds in to hear heartfelt and powerful intensity from myself and guests. Be ready to put into place actual tools and gather insight for you to use on your healing journey. Welcome back to the Fierce Voice Podcast. Today I have Michele with me, and I am so excited to dive in. We've been chatting before I hit the button, and she has some amazing wisdom to share, some religious abuse, romantic abuse also. You mentioned a divorce, and so I'm really excited to hear everything you have to offer. And your main focus, I know you said, was pushing through those negative thoughts and patterns, and so that is what we're all about here. So, Michele, I'll let you introduce yourself just a little bit more, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. I am a motivational speaker, and I speak specifically to breaking through the negative narratives that are holding us back in our lives. Different stories that we were raised with or have been instilled in us. So I talk about breaking through those blocks so that we can live a more fulfilling and unapologetically authentic life. I'm also an empowerment coach, and I work specifically with women who are embarking on their rediscovery journey and entering their midlife awakening phase. There's no such thing as crisis. It's an awakening. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it is like going through and finding yourself it can feel chaos because like we were talking about before, it's hard, it's so much hard work and looking at yourself in the mirror, but it really is just coming to a new version of yourself that is so beautiful. I love how you said that.
Mhm.
Yes. so
Absolutely.
so and you mentioned
Mhm.
too, you have kids. Tell us a little bit about
I
your kids.
do. Oh, yeah, I guess I'll fill you in on that part of it too. I live in California. I have 4 kids. 15, 17, 21, and 23, 3 boys and a girl. Keep me on my toes for sure. One thing that I've realized, especially in this last year, is that raising toddlers is super physically draining, but raising young adults is emotionally draining. I'm telling you. I'm
Mm.
like, I don't even know if I can do this, but it's super exciting to watch kids, you know, close chapters and enter new ones and start navigating through life and all the things. And it's kind of fun being a younger mom and being able to like remember like that stage in life and kind of help direct them through it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so super busy out here in California with the kiddos.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine. I know as my kids get older as well, there's always a different stage, and
Mhm.
it is forever. That is for sure. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about your journey and
Mhm,
maybe some tools even you've used. What was the biggest tool in finding
mhm,
yourself again, and your story along that, how you realized you
mhm.
needed to start making those strides.
Yeah, I was raised in a really strict religious ideology of what you were supposed to be as a woman, as a wife, and a mom. And I grew up through adolescence and my teenage years with all these lessons and teachings and ideas and expectations of what I was going to be. And I genuinely felt like my sole purpose in life was to be a wife and mom, and I couldn't wait to be there. And of course, being the oldest of 5 kids, the nurturing and the mothering just kind of came naturally to me too. So I just couldn't wait. Um, I got to about the age of 18, and like many of us, kind of hit that independent rebellious stage. And in hindsight, I see those 3 years that I had this rebellious stage was actually me tapping into who Michelle actually was, tapping into my true and authentic self. But for me, with how I was raised, I was like, man, you are wild and you need to reel it in. and but I was living my best life too. And, I was having the time of my life and I realized I love socializing. I loved being around people. Um, I loved a good adrenaline rush. And, heaven forbid, I actually swore and it was okay, but I got to around 21 years old, and that little nagging voice started in the back of my head telling me that what I was doing was not okay behavior. And I needed to start thinking about settling down and raising a family because that's what I had been taught to do. And so I did. I found a nice young man who was quiet and conservative. And I thought, okay, he's the perfect like balance to my crazy. And we were married and had our first child at 23. And I dove headfirst into being a wife and a mom. And I loved it and I adored it. And it was exactly what I was meant to be. And, the thing is that, you know, I was yes, I was happy. Yes, I loved being a mom, but at the same time, I was beating myself up whenever I couldn't, reach this level of perfection. I was supposed to do this, I was supposed to have the house clean by the time my husband got home. I was supposed to have home cooked meals. My kids always left the house with matching shirt and socks. My grandma made fun of me for it. So it was so important for me to put on this facade of living the perfect life. And in the home, I was really trying to get there. Um, I'd like to say I was striving to be Martha Stewart on steroids, and that's exactly what it is I had these incredibly high expectations, and it was impossible to meet them, and when I didn't meet them, I was beating myself up. I'd become super self-critical. I'd ultimately get depressed, and then I'd be like, "What's the matter with me? I have the perfect life and family and this and that," and I'd go to therapy and then I'd feel better, and then the cycle would just start back over again. So it wasn't until my youngest child went off to preschool, and which for many of us is a momentous occasion. You know, all of a sudden you have all this freedom as a mom that you never had before. But for me, once I got the laundry done, the house cleaned, the grocery shopping done, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table in the silence of my house going, Okay, now what?" And it was my pivotal "oh shit" moment. I was like, "What do I do now?" Because the kids aren't home to entertain me. I have no one to wait on anymore, no snacks to make. What do I do? And that was really an eye opener for me. It made me realize how far on the totem pole I had fallen and how I had completely lost myself in being a wife and a mom, a homemaker. And I didn't even realize it. And I didn't know how to find myself again. And so that's really where my journey of discovery began.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I love how I feel like so many women caveat to, I love my kids. I love, all this and stuff.
Mhm,
You don't need that. Like your passion, it's clear you're a wife, you're a mom and you're doing everything you can for your family, but there's more to it. We can't forget ourselves in that. And I just love
mhm,
how your story shows that. Like even through all that, like you
mhm,
loved everything you were doing, but you still need to have that self-care for you, that love
mhm,
for you throughout that. So,
mhm.
yeah.
And the thing is, as uh, moms, I feel like, with like New Year's comes along and we're like, okay, goals. I'm going to get outside and walk for a half hour after dinner, or I'm gonna, spend time reading books. Or I feel like even though they don't seem like huge goals, they're actually really big goals and they're really difficult to sustain. So, I mean, just even like, okay, I'm going to treat myself to a bath once a week, a nice chill bubble bath. Well, chill and children don't go together. So,
Someone always
so
needs something.
someone always needs something. So, even like what may seem small actually is really huge and difficult in the big picture when you're starting out, rediscovering who you are. And it really comes down to um, self-care and self-love. And so when I realized I had no hobbies, no interests, um, for me, the first step was learning how to start taking care of myself. I've done a really great job taking care of everyone else, but I was pre-diabetic. I had chronic hypertension. In fact, my youngest was 6 weeks early because my blood pressure went through the roof. And I actually I remember driving to the hospital praying that I wasn't going to stroke out so I could be around for my kids. But then here I was years later in the state, still the same spot. So for me, it made sense to start taking care of my nutrition and my diet and start taking care of myself that way. I also started implementing things into my day that made me happy. I started working on loving myself and finding my happy. And so, again, starting with the really itty bitty small things like lighting your favorite scented candle at the end of the day while you chill in your room, or blasting your favorite, 90s hits when you're doing the dishes or cooking dinner. Or for me, I have a secret chocolate stash in my freezer no one knows about. And if I need a little emotional chocolate, I'll go get it. Or at the end of the day, I'll have my block of chocolate. And that's my little treat for me. So finding those little itty bitty things to bring a little bit of happy into your day creates that momentum for bigger things, bigger ways for you to show you care for yourself and start loving on yourself. And as you do that, your self-worth grows and you become more of a priority in your own life, because if you're not a priority for yourself, no one else is going to make you a priority either.
Mhm. Oh, so powerful. Yeah. And I think for me, it was more along the lines of my emotional state too. I dealt with anxiety attacks and, everything from my trauma. And so to make
Mhm,
those things, just to start speaking up for myself to my kids, even though they were little, just, being able for me to say, I can't handle that right now, or it's
mhm,
too loud right now, and naming my emotions or why I was feeling the way I
mhm,
was just that small little thing to help me on my journey. So yeah, I can
mhm,
totally relate to everything you're saying.
mhm.
Yeah.
That is so amazing and empowering what you just shared with us, because I think it's really easy for us to be like, oh, I'm going to go do a walk and I'm going to do that. But the emotional part is the difficult part, being able to say no without feeling guilty. And on the flip side, being able to say yes without feeling any shame around it too. So setting those boundaries, I honestly feel like that's the hardest part of it all, protecting your energy and your space and your mental wellness and your emotional wellness and setting those boundaries. That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with what you're saying. Like that people pleasing mindset, you
Mhm,
mentioned before we got on the show, just like, wanting to be that perfect mom and doing everything exactly in
mhm,
order for them. And that's so ingrained in us with our
mhm,
religious backgrounds that to get out of that is completely opposite of
mhm.
everything our instinct that was, in my case beaten into me,
Yeah.
is telling me to do. And so,
Mhm,
yeah, it is like a complete, I want to say denying of self, but it's not, because that's what you're accepting. And then your nervous
yeah.
system can't handle it because you've never given yourself that space
Mhm,
to be you. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so I started taking care of myself nutritionally and through fitness, and I ended up falling in love with fitness, and ultimately, s- now I sound like a little bit of a hypocrite about goals, big goals, but I'm one of those girls that is 0 to 100.
Mhm.
Okay,
Same.
confession, confession. And it was a process, but ultimately, I decided to do a fitness competition. And I wanted to push myself. I wanted to see what I was capable of because for over half my life, I had been trying to live as a completely different person. So here I was discovering myself and pushing my limits and seeing what I was capable of. So ended up doing 3 fitness competitions altogether. But after this first competition, I went out of state for it. My coach was out of state. And I came home and my husband the next day, we got the kids off to school and he's like, "We need to talk." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, let's talk." And he's like, "So proud of you. I can't believe you did that. Like, it's amazing." Um, but here's the thing, you're getting all kinds of attention on social media. Oh, I should say I kept it a secret from everyone too, except for my husband knew because I didn't want anyone bursting my bubble. And I only
Mhm.
wanted to be accountable to me. So after my competition, I got on social media and was like, "So this happened this weekend." So all of a sudden, I was getting all this attention from friends and whatnot, and athletic companies wanting me to be an affiliate. And so my husband comes to me and he says, "Super proud of you. But here's the thing, like you're getting all this attention now, and I'm just kind of wondering where I stand as your husband." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, it's still the same Michelle. Like on the inside, I'm the same. It's just the outside. And, you know, like I'm still your wife. Like everything's fine." And, we talked around it and we tried to work solutions and, you know, hey, how about you come to the gym with me? And we did counseling and we did a lot of things. But what ended up happening was because I had been all of a sudden thrown in the spotlight from being, this, being a housewife. That's what I was. And then all of a sudden, I shared the pictures of me up on stage in my bling bikini and hooker heels. And that's not what you do. And I actually joke around, call it my sister wife to hot white phase. It's my sister wife to hot wife. Um, Anywho, it brought out a bunch of his insecurities and his personal issues. And no matter how hard we worked through it, it just got worse and worse and escalated more and more to where our marriage became very psychologically and emotionally abusive and very, very, very controlling. And, you know, being raised in the church that I was, families are an eternal unit. And I really needed to do whatever I could do to keep my family together. And so it was a real struggle for me. Do I choose my happiness and who I've grown to become that I absolutely love so much? Or do I go back to this place of being stagnant and in complacency and unhappy and beating myself up and depressed? And ultimately, I chose my happiness. And it was really honestly one of the darkest periods in my life to say no more and to walk away from everything that I had learned, everything that I had been raised with, and, you know, break my family apart was, what it felt like. And it was super duper difficult. And it was so hard to stay positive and so hard to stay focused on I deserve to be happy. I need this for me. I need this for my children. And yeah, so I do like to share that piece of my journey because, like we were talking, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. And when you're going through major life changes, you often get resistance from the people you love in your life. And People that have been by your side no longer support you. I got so many lectures on Michelle, the grass is not greener on the other side, and all the things. And you have to be okay with releasing these people from your life. And it is so difficult and it hurts so much. But when you come out the other side of it, like you'll be so grateful you did, because when you release the negativity, so much more positivity comes into your life to just continue to elevate you to that next level.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Oh, I feel every word you're saying because been there and
Mhm.
yeah, to walk away from everything. And like you said, I had people too who just never heard from them again, or yeah, the lectures or the looks of
Yeah.
disdain where they don't actually say anything, but you know exactly what they're
Hmm.
saying is
Yeah.
a dark time. It really is. Like it eats at you inside while you're trying to hold those opinions in esteem.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So how did that affect you? If you don't mind sharing, actually,
Hmm.
what religion did you grow up in?
Hmm. So I grew up in the Latter-day Saint or Mormon religion. And yeah, so eternal families is the core of the religion. And yeah, it was really difficult, and all of my friends were in the religion, and so I lost so many friends. There's a couple that have stuck around and supported and whatnot, which is fantastic, but, yeah, and my family was very active in the church, and now here we are, geez, about 10 years later, and not one member of my family is active anymore. I almost kind of feel like I led the exodus
Oh,
from the church, you know? So, yeah, it's kind of, when you look back on everything that you went through and where you are now and where your kids are at now, and just take a moment to reflect on how your journey has actually completely changed so many other people's lives and journeys. Like, holy cow, that's impact. That hits hard. And I never stop until, like, seriously, just in this moment, I'm like, holy shit. Okay. I never stop and like reflect, but it's so good to do it.
mhm.
I'm always go, go, go. I never stop. But gosh, yeah, be so freaking proud of yourself when you come out the other side and be like, "Oh my god, a year ago, this is where I was. Oh my gosh, it's amazing."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. And breaking those generational curses, like there's
Mhm,
so many things I see my kids not dealing with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that
mhm.
must be nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I do the same
Mhm.
thing with my kids.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So how do you I was going to ask about your family, but you answered that. So that is amazing because that is super rare. So
Mhm.
that is just oh, that must have to feel so amazing to have that kind of support around you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't start out that way like you said, but in the end to look back
No.
now like you said and reflect and be
Yeah.
like here we are, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, and you know what's super awesome is to see like all of my siblings and, like my parents and whatnot, like everyone is like stepping into who they authentically are. And I mean, the holidays are so different, like our family gatherings are so different. And there's so much more joy and laughter because no one's trying to, box themselves into this expectation. We're just being who we are, and we love each other for it, and we support each other for it. And that's like so amazing to see people just stepping into who they are, who they were meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and in my family, it's the boxing everyone else up into who where they should be and how
Mm.
they should be behaving and stuff too. So yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. What would you say was one of the biggest tools you used after coming out of that?
Mm.
Because like for me, yeah, I was like re-traumatized by my circles. Not only was I dealing with this traumatic event, the loss
Mhm,
of someone I just absolutely loved, like love of your life. This is
mhm,
what I was supposed to do. So not only was my world flipped upside down, but then, yeah, everyone around me having that reaction and leaving me. What was some of the tools you used to get out of
mhm.
that mindset?
Yeah. Well, a big piece for me was to get rid of any sort of negative clutter that was out there. And a big piece for me was social media. And so I did a big clearing out of who I had following me, who I was following. If there was anything negative or gave me like the X on my feed, like they were done. But at the same time, like these other women who had been my friends in the church, watching them, and their perfect life on social media. Or I remember I had one girlfriend start doing the TikTok dance trends. And that was like a hard no. I'm like, nope, sorry. I I can't do this anymore. I'm not.
Yep.
So anyone that made me feel less of a woman or less, made me feel bad about myself because I wasn't raising 10 kids and doing TikTok trends. Like, no, it's not happening. So I got rid of a lot of the negativity. So all I wanted was positive energy in my life. And so I really started focusing on bringing that in. Um, I also, excuse me, I also had a lot of resentment towards the church when I came out, and not necessarily at God, but at the church. And so I felt that I really needed to strip down my belief system to just very basic, you know, not even like Christianity, but just be a good person, be kind to others, give service, just be an overall, like, just good person. I just stripped it way down. And I kind of started merging God with the universe. And it felt better for me to just start using universe as that energy around me. So I ended up with two mottos: I deserve to be happy, and the universe has my back. And those were the things I really like leaned into during my difficult time. Um, I began to be a huge collector of positive affirmations and motivational quotes. Lots of screenshots happening on my phone. Anything that resonated, I was grasping for straws. But one of the things I really enjoy doing was creating wallpapers for my phone that had either a motivational quote or an affirmation that really resonated with me, with what I was going through at the time. And every time I checked the time clock on my phone or notifications or was at a red light, I would tap my phone and I'd take a deep breath in and release any negativity or tension I had. I'd breathe back in and I'd be repeating these affirmations or repeating the quote, just bring that positive energy back into my life. And then the light would turn on green and I'd move on. So I was like, how many times are we tapping on our phone? Like, to see something constantly positive, like, popping up in our face and taking that in. So holding that positive space, I protected it like with my life. It was everything to me. So clearing out the negativity, bringing in all the positivity. Not only did I do that, but I listened to podcasts like this one that had a really great foundation about self love and self care and empowerment. Um, it helped me to feel like I wasn't alone, to be in that virtual space and listen to other women, because in real life I felt terribly alone because I couldn't talk to my friends, I couldn't talk to my leaders, I couldn't talk to my husband, I couldn't talk to my parents because they weren't on board yet, um, and listening to audiobooks. I mean, just really, I was just grasping for anything, but to build the positivity, to learn some techniques to raise my self-love and my self-worth. Um, and that's what really got me through. the really bad divorce and the breakup of my marriage and get through on the other side. And, we struggled for about 5 years. And if I hadn't been continuously growing and standing firm in who I was and that I deserved to be happy and I was worthy of happiness, I would not have been able to walk away. I would have stayed in it. But because I continued that work on myself, I had the strength to walk away and had the strength to be like, no, I am freaking worth it. And I'm standing firm in that. So, yeah, get rid of the negative, bring in the positive. All the positive.
I love it. Yes. And what a thing
Mhm,
to hand down to your children too now.
mhm,
Like that's another thing I always think of is now that example they see of you and standing up for yourself instead of
mm,
setting that example of, over sacrificing for
mhm,
everyone else's happiness. They get to see like,
mhm,
no, I don't have to do that. Mom doesn't do that. And
mhm,
you had that tenacity to continue forward and keep
mhm,
going. Like how
mm,
beautiful. I love
mhm.
it.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, your story is
Mhm,
awesome. I see a lot of very similarities in our story too,
mhm.
which is just like so cool to me and affirming to me because yeah,
Yeah,
it never goes away. And that lonely feeling,
yeah.
you can always be in and out of it. Your reality is only as big as you make it. And
Mhm.
you get out and realize, wait, I'm not the only one. Yeah,
Yeah,
so beautiful.
yeah. So it really absolutely helps, like, I I'm constantly thinking about what an amazing phase of life, stage in life, in history we are in, where we have these platforms and these, resources for women to not feel alone, for women to learn how to step into their power, and for like the first time like ever, like women have a voice and they're finding strength in having a voice. And even though we're all spread out all over the world, there's such a strength in womanhood, and it's really an amazing time to be alive as a woman, really.
It really is, as a kid, of course, patriarchy wasn't real. Even though men were in control and submissive to their husbands, patriarchy wasn't real.
Yeah.
And so I've grown up with that mentality, like, oh, women have more rights than they say, feminism is a bunch of whatever and all these things. And now as a woman trying to find my voice and be a
Mhm,
single parent and all these things and like realize, but yet also like the voice I have been able to make for myself because I have thrown all of that out the window and
mhm,
just said, and yeah, have my own platforms. Oh my gosh, you're so right. Like it is just such an amazing thing. I feel like we're breaking more
mhm,
or making more strides in all of that all over again. And we're
mhm.
still not as close as we should be, but um for our own rights, but we're getting there again. Like it's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to respect your time too. So share
Mhm,
so that my audience can find you,
mhm.
your social media handles, any websites, all the goods that you have to
All the
offer.
goods, all the
All the
goods.
goods, your
Um,
coaching, all of it. Mhm.
well, the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. My handle is Fiercely Authentic Coaching. In my
Love it.
bio,
Fiercely. Gotta
yes,
love
Fiercely Authentic.
that.
So check me out on Instagram. In my bio, I have a link to a freebie with iPhone wallpapers with affirmations and motivational quotes, and some of my faves are in there. And I'm always saying, please, please, please slide into my DMs and say hi. I love to support you on your journey and give shout outs and help wherever I possibly can. My website is another good place to connect with me, and that is www.michellejohnstonspeaks.com. So, but definitely hit me up on Instagram.
Fabulous. And I'll of course drop all that in the show
Mhm.
notes as well. So before we close, if you don't mind, I got a few extra minutes. Yeah. Would you
Mhm,
share a little bit about the coaching you do and the work you
mhm,
do? And if someone wanted to sign up with you or just check you out,
mhm.
if you have a call or how that works for you.
Mhm. Yeah, if you're interested in my coaching, we set up a call and just get a feel for each other, make sure we're like good vibe and so I can get a feel for what your background is and your story and where you're coming from and where you're starting from. I do a lot of coaching breaking through different mindset blocks that might be holding you back. I do EFT tapping and other types of that was huge for me.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with it too. So we do a lot of processing and do a lot of talking out, and my ultimate goal is to give you a space where that's judgment free and you feel safe with sharing your story, sharing what you're going through and your emotions so we can work through those to get you to the other side of things and start growing beyond and falling in love with yourself again and getting to that next stage of empowerment. Um, in my little bio on Instagram and on my website, you can link up with me there, and we just start out with a call, and we'd go from there.
Awesome. Fabulous. Oh, amazing work because, well, tapping, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. I did that and breath work as well. But tapping
Mhm.
is amazing. I've heard so many survivors say how just life changing that has been for them.
Yeah.
And then,
Mhm.
yeah, like being able to talk to someone in a space,
Mhm.
safe space is there's just nothing like it. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
thank you for all of that work that you do
Mhm.
because that is not easy to hold that space for others, but much, much needed. So I
Mhm.
appreciate that.
Mm.
So
Thank you.
yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was amazing. I appreciate everything you shared and just coming on and being vulnerable and using your voice to help others.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks. Thank you for joining us today on the Fierce Voice podcast. I truly hope you found healing insights, tools, and a space held for you in this journey. We are all in this together, and you are not alone. You can find me, your host, Brigette Gildemaster, on all social media platforms, and check out my website at www.brigittegildemaster.com, where you can listen to past Fierce Voice episodes, check out my media features, find my books, and inquire about booking me for your next virtual or in-person event. My keynotes are impactful with real life stories, actionable tools, and inspiration for healing after a life altering experience. Or check out my workshop event to learn more about how you can prevent abuse in your area. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time on the Fierce Voice Podcast.